Finished training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the Dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Hey, where you been? Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I'm Stephen Means, and that is Andrew Gillis, and this is a Tuesday recruiting pod. It's been a while since we've done one of these. In this season, it's a little difficult because it's so much going on, and Ohio State, the way they handle a lot of their recruiting, it's just not as, it's not the most important thing going on when they're trying to win a national championship. But recruiting does never stop. So when there's things that are happening, we have to talk about those things. And I guess off the top, Andrew, it's flip watch season. Right, we've entered that portion of the year where kids took visits all June. They made decisions in July, and then 2.5 months later, they go, I don't think I made the right decision for a lot of different reasons. Right, it can be because maybe a better situation popped up. Sometimes you're negotiating, and a better deal popped up somewhere else. There's a million different reasons as to why, literally, both figuratively and literally, and every other way, Italy, that there is. It's flip watch season, and Ohio State's already lost one player over the last couple of weeks here, and that's Corbin Fordham, who flipped to Florida State, which I understand that his father played at Florida State. So this is a kid who is essentially flipping to go home to some aspect. What's the impact of losing Corbin Fordham in Ohio State's 2026 recruiting class, and are there plans in place to potentially replace him?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So, like you mentioned, Corbin Fordham, he committed to Ohio State like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
This was a pretty kind of cut and dry. I think it was Thanksgiving. This is the second year in a row that a commitment popped up randomly on Thanksgiving, and a kid went, you know what, today's it. The year before it was Gabe Van Sickle. In 23 and 24, it was Corbin Fordham. Corbin Fordham, he took his OV to Ohio State on May 30th. Everything kind of felt locked in. He leaves from the class. Now you have no tight ends. And this is a very interesting conversation to talk about because, it depends on what you think of the room moving forward. Will Kazmarek is gone, but Bennett Christian can return. I don't think Max Clare is going to come back. I know he has an extra year of eligibility, but I don't think he's coming back for a 5th year of college football. I understand, this notion of, what if we just paid Max Clare to return, and what if we just found the money there? And, okay, but if his goal is to boost his NFL draft stock, what is fundamentally changing about his role? I mean, maybe he becomes a better blocker and maybe that's it, but you have Christian, you have Clare that can return. Jelani will be back. Jelani Thurman, that is. Max LeBlanc, he's on the roster still. Brody Lennon will be going into his second year. Nate Roberts is being used a lot. You've got depth there, and it kind of makes you wonder, do you need a tight end in 26? I would venture to guess that they would try. There is a player by the name of Max Sutter. He's one of the better tight ends in the class. Ohio State has really been after him for a while. He's a top 100 kid, really, really long. He's committed to Alabama right now. He took an OV to Ohio State on May 30th, the same weekend as Fordham. I think he was the only think he was the only other tight end to take an OV this summer to Ohio State. So we will have to see what happens with Sutter. It seems as if Alabama is doing well there. But again, 6'5", 230, like Ohio State likes his size. The interesting concept to me about losing Fordham is what you do in 27. You go look at Ohio State's 27 recruiting. I mean, they've got some options at tight end. You know, they've got some dudes out there where you look at and go, you know what? Maybe that's a 2 tight end class, especially with 2 and 25. Maybe you're just okay with one or none in 26 if you go back to 2. They love Brock Williams. Brock Williams is the number 1 player on their tight end board. You know, Brady Edmonds has talked, I think he talked on this podcast about, how much Brock Williams matters and really trying to go get him. And he mentioned he was over the summer when Brock Williams, he was trying to get on campus with him when he camped. They are really, really trying to pull out all the stops to get Brock Williams. He's a 4-star player out of Illinois. And they would really want him. I think, at least last I checked, I mean, he's kind of at that border 4 or 5 star in the composite rankings. Then there's D'Angelo White. He attends Villanova St. Joseph up in Cleveland. It's the same school as Bo Jackson. He's a top 300 player, number 285 in the rankings, number 18 tight end. He's a really, really athletic player. Ohio State really likes him. I know he really likes Ohio State. I think no matter what, I texted this out to our text subscribers, 614-350-3215. I think White ends up in the class no matter what. It's just you get somebody else to pair with him. And that is where I think we have to, we don't have to have this particular 2-hour conversation again about the math and how money changes things and paying guys to come and paying guys to stay and paying guys to blah, 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 just kind of going down the line. How do you make the money work? How do you make the math work? Either way, I think White ends up in this class, and it's just a matter of, okay, do you go get Brock Williams? Do you have another? Do you have both? Do you have 2? Jordan Karhoff, he's a teammate of Ryan Day's son, St. Francis in Columbus.
Go Stallions.
Says our native alum, but Jordan Karhoff is somebody that I think is an option as well. You could just kind of stick in state. He's a really good player too, 4-star player, number 310 overall. They've got options in 27, but this is the unique one because of all the positions that are on this list that we're going to talk about, this is the one where you go, you know what, maybe you don't need this guy or this position in 26, or at the very least, it's not the end of the world if you don't land.
So Mark Sutter's not going to be a Buckeye. Is that if I said that into a microphone, is somebody going to be able to clip it in a month and a half and go, look at this dumb guy who doesn't know anything?
I mean, people might do that anyway, but
sure, but would they be?
Max Sutter is not going to be a Buckeye.
Max Sutter.
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and everybody can be happy because he's a really, really good player and he's a top 100 recruit and blah blah blah. It's just I don't see it happen.
Okay, and the reason why I think that would be interesting is what Keenan Bailey's doing with his tight end room right now. Does a top 100 recruit want to sign up and be like, yes, 14 personnel, sign me up. But okay, that's fine if it's not. Corbin Fordham, the second player from Ohio State's 2026 recruiting class who has flipped somewhere else. Jacob Weatherspoon flipped to North Carolina as a number 148 player, number 13 cornerback, and then Fordham, the number 627 player, number 33 tight end, flips to Florida State. They lost 2 guys to the ACC. Look at that. Just before we move on with some other offensive guys, is there any chance Jacob Weatherspoon ends up signing back with Ohio State by signing day, or is that ship long past and is Ohio State on to finding other ways to replace him?
Yeah, I reached out to somebody to try and figure this out because we're recording this podcast on Monday. Did you see what happened, Stephen? The report that came out Monday morning and the report and what happened on social media with North Carolina on Monday. Did you see? This is a non-recruiting story, but did you see the craziness that's going on there right now?
Mm-mm.
So basically, there was a report from 247's UNC site that said that Bill Belichick had directed North Carolina not to tweet anything about the Patriots or not, there was that report about not having the Patriots in the building. And that was why, think about this. Think about how much Ohio State's hyping up their wide receivers in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina was not hyping up Drake May, who's actually had a really good start to this season.
So Drake May is not a North Carolina alum as long as Bill Belichick is that?
No, it's not that. It's as long as he plays for the New England Patriots. So that is, I say that to bring up, I was listening to a podcast today from Split Zone Duo. I mention that podcast a lot. It's a national college football podcast.
Yeah, man,
And
we
they were
gotta
going
stop
through,
promoting other podcasts on the pod.
well, they were going through the various kinds of interim coaches, and I think there's various kinds of flip candidates, and we're going to go through a lot of them. And Weatherspoon being the guy at a school whose program is kind of in a dicey place, whose coach might not be around, who it just kind of feels like everything's going on in like that's not unreasonable to me, but we'll see. I would venture to guess no, but again, you never know.
Okay. Well, something to watch. I mean, all this is something to watch for, right? Like the transfer portal exists.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen in the recent future? Okay. So there are a lot of kids here over the weekend because Ohio State finally got to play a Big Ten game at night. And all of these kids, it feels like, hey, is Ohio State going to flip these kids? So here's what this pod is going to turn into. We just got done talking about players who flipped away from Ohio State. Now we're going to be talking about players Ohio State might be trying to flip over the next 2 months before we get to signing day. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball, Andrew, in terms of who was here this weekend, what we think of where their recruitment stands with Ohio State over the next 2 months as Ohio State tries to fill out its 26 class.
Let's start with the offensive line because there were 2 kids here. There were 2 kids that weren't here that I think we need to talk about. The first kid that was here that we had an idea was going to be here and we kind of figured was going to be here was Landry Breed. He is a kid out of Menor. I went and saw him whatever Ohio State's bye week was. I went up and watched him play. They beat the snot out of whoever they played, and he only played a half. But one of those people in attendance was Tyler Bowen. And Tyler Bowen also got to see Landry Breed beat the snot out of some kids and play a half and catch a tackle throwback pass. It was kind of great.
Shout out to Caden. Before you continue.
Yes. Go ahead. Yes.
I think the top 2 players in the Heisman Trophy discussion right now should be Jeremiah Smith and Caden Proctor. Move away from the quarterback play. Best player in the country in Alabama. It's not just a wrinkle anymore. It's 2 weeks in a row where they put the ball in Caden Proctor's hands and he's done something special. Let that kid go to New York if he keeps this up. Continue. Sorry.
I think we just figured out the way that Orlando Pace would have won the Heisman.
So we can blame John Cooper for not giving him the ball?
Yeah, they should have put him in the backfield. Yeah, Landry Breed, he is somebody who, when I went and visited with him, that was the weekend of the 20th. He is committed to NC State, number 1,106 player in the class. I think this is a player that Ohio State sees as an interior guy. In fact, I know they see him as an interior guy. He's a swing player. I think he could play guard. I think he could play either guard. I think he could probably play center. I don't think he's going to play tackle at the next level. And this is something that I would probably venture to guess is going to end up in Ohio State's favor. I would venture to guess that this goes Ohio State's way. Landry Breed, like this is kind of one of those conversations where we talked about, or I mentioned just a few minutes ago, there's different types of flips. Landry Breed is the flip of bigger school comes calling, better opportunity comes calling. You want to go play for your in-state team. Like that is the idea there. So with Breed, I mean, it comes down to NC State views him as a tackle first, but they'll play him wherever they need to. Ohio State views him as an interior player. He was the top ranked and is the top ranked offensive lineman in NC State's class. He would be the 5th offensive lineman in Ohio State's class. And I think I just think this is probably going to go Ohio State's way. I mean, when an in-state kid gets an offer like that in season, typically it means pretty good things. So yeah, Landry Breed was here. I think he's going to be in Ohio State's class. Steven, if you were to ask me, if we were to do one of those class predictions that we've done a few times, he would be in it. So Landry Breed was here. The other one that visited, before we get into the kids who weren't here, which makes this an interesting conversation, was Micah Smith. And this is one
that kid's not going to UCLA. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Yeah, so this came out of nowhere. There was...
Did it, though? I mean, they fired a future head coach.
Well, the visit came out of nowhere.
In terms of Ohio State's relationship to him. Okay.
Yes. There were rumblings, murmurs, whatever you want to call it, whispers that Ohio State was going to have some kind of unexpected visitors on campus. Micah Smith was one of them. He's the number 200 overall player, number 12 interior offensive line prospect. I think he can play tackle if you need him to.
Austin
I spoke
Saravel
with
is
him
playing
for a
left tackle
story.
right now. I think anybody can play left tackle. Listen, if Austin Saravel can do it, if Tyler Bowen can turn Austin Saravel into a left tackle, if you tell me anybody 6'5", 305 pounds can play tackle, I'm just going to believe you as long as Tyler Bowen is here. Deal?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. I mean, like, look, we went through a national championship winning season for Ohio State where
Where the left guard was their left tackle.
Yep.
Anything is possible.
Love how that title run just basically, well, actually, not even that one. The 2014 title, like that turned us into like Kevin Garnett, where we're just like, you know what, like, could you win it when your left tackle gets hurt and then your backup left tackle stinks and then gets hurt? Yeah, probably. Who are we to say no? I said this before. Like, last year's title run was very bad for us in a very specific way. And it was good for us in a lot of ways because people obviously engaged and people loved hearing us and we got to talk about a national championship winning team. But it was very bad for us because, like, if Ohio State loses like 4 corners this year, we're going to go into the playoff. And
I'm
what are
going
they
to
going to
Vegas.
say?
I'm going to Vegas and betting a paycheck. What? Are you serious?
I'm waiting until their odds drop and I'm placing a wager and I'm retiring.
Yeah.
Because apparently that doesn't matter to this team. Anyway, Micah Smith, I talked to him for a story. He's a great kid, by the way. He is a really, really good kid. He's from Vero Beach, Florida. He had a really good relationship with Justin Fry, but that relationship did continue. I think that's notable when relationships carry over from one coach to another. That definitely kind of shows you that there is a genuine interest. He came up to Columbus. Let's see. I wrote a story about him actually last April, and he was talking about coming up to Columbus and how important it was and how much he liked the city and how he was, really excited to see everything. And then it just kind of felt like one of those situations where he saw a better opportunity in a couple of different ways at UCLA. Hilariously, the UCLA commit wasn't like visiting for the Penn State game when they won that game. But again, UCLA is a mess, and I don't want that win to kind of cloud that. I just, they're in not a good way. But Micah Smith, his recruitment is definitely, I would say, open at this point. I mean, when you take a visit to Ohio State like that, it definitely kind of lets you know that there is something there. So, I mean, look, if you can add this type of player to your class, you've already got Sam Greer, who's playing like a 5-star talent. He's a top whatever recruit. I don't really even care what his ranking is. That dude is like a top 50 player in the country. You have Maxwell Riley, who's another like top 150 player in the class. You add Micah Smith into this group, and all of a sudden, you're kind of cooking with some gas here. So Micah Smith showed up, and that was somebody that, I mean, like, look, for how much he really, truly, genuinely cares about Ohio State, for how much he really does, envision, like, what Ohio State can give him, I feel pretty good about him joining this class, too. I think that Micah Smith is one of those players to where it's maybe less of a slam dunk than what Landry Breed is. And I don't want to call Landry Breed a slam dunk, but I do think Breed will end up in the class. Micah Smith, I think that's more of like a mid-range jumper. I would probably bet that if UCLA is not it, it's going to be Ohio State.
Do they have room? Because they do have, 4 guys right now already on the offensive line. And if you're saying Landry Breed is more than likely at some point over the next 2 months going to flip to Ohio State, and then maybe Ohio State flips Landry Breed, you have to 6 guys. They haven't had a 6-man offensive line class since 2020. And
good question, Stephen.
So
good question.
Do they have room?
So there were 2 guys that weren't here that we need to talk about.
Okay.
Number 1 is Adam Guthrie. He's an in-state kid who is currently committed to Clemson. He gave an interview. I was waiting for a haircut on Monday morning, and he gave an interview with a Clemson specific. It wasn't like 247 or Rivals. I think it was like a Clemson recruiting site. It was a specific Clemson recruiting site or just team site. And he said, I'm fully committed. I'm locked into Clemson. He quote tweeted it with Go Tigers. He said in the story that Ohio State is the big one that's really kind of pushing for him right now. Again, This is a local kid. This is a kid who does attend school pretty close to, I don't want to say it and be wrong. He attends Miami Trace. I don't know how far Miami Trace is and Washington Courthouse is from Columbus, but this is a tackle. He's a top 250 player, the number 242 overall prospect. it doesn't seem like it's going to go Ohio State's way. Tyler Bowen has pushed. He visited Adam Guthrie before he went up to go see Landry Breed play that night that I was talking about where Breed was there. Guthrie's committed to Clemson. I would expect it to stay that way. But somebody else that I'm keeping an eye on and keeping tabs on is Aaron Thomas, the 3-star offensive tackle who is from Mountain Point High School in Arizona. He's one of 2 Arizonians. I don't know. He's one of 2 players that are committed to Ohio State's offensive line from that state. Number 506 prospect, number 46 offensive tackle. He's a big boy, 6'7", 300 pounds. I like the way he moves a lot. His upside, I think, is really high. But tell me if this sounds familiar to what we just talked about. He took a visit to Florida State this weekend when they played Miami. His dad played at Florida State in the 90s. And Florida State is pushing for his recruit. This one is very much up in the air, I think. It would not shock me if he ends up in Florida State's class. Like this to me feels like an Ohio State, Florida State battle. So yes, I think Ohio State has room. I know from talking to people in that building that they would take 6 if the money's right, if the numbers are right, if they feel that the players are comfortable with it and they're comfortable with it, they would take 6 in the 26 class if they like the 6 that they're going to take. I just don't think you're going to get there. Because you're at 4 right now. You have Breed, who's currently committed to NC State. You have Micah Smith, who's currently committed to UCLA. You have those 2 that you're looking at. And even if they do commit to Ohio State, Aaron Thomas is, getting flirted with by Florida State. Like, I don't think Guthrie's going to happen. I would probably say that Ohio State's class ends at 5 on the offensive line. And you're getting 2 of the 3 with Thomas, Breed, and Smith.
A big class. I mean, they need a big class. They've been doing 3-man offensive line classes for the last 3 years, which is ridiculous. But there's also an element here of it's a new offensive line coach. Probably has a philosophy. Well, I know he has a philosophy. It's a bunch of big ass dudes. Literally, that's what it is. Big ass dudes who can move. That is their philosophy. That seems to be his philosophy, both on the transfer portal and on the recruiting trail. And you're trying to get as many of those guys in here as possible because you've got a new offensive line coach who values maybe different things than the last offensive line coach did, right? But also what's the offensive game plan going forward, right? What do you want? What are you trying to mold? What are you trying to bring into the building? I mean, right now, what do you have? Tucker Smith, 6'5", 280 pounds. You got Aaron Thomas, who's 6'7", 300 pounds. Maxwell Riley is 6'5", 280 pounds. Sam Greer, is the golden goose of the entire lot, right? 6 foot.
He is the gem of the class.
Yes. Yeah, he is. There's 2 people in Ohio State's recruiting class right now where I'm not really sure why they're not consensus composite 5-star recruits, and it's him and Kari Wilder. And I am wondering if both of those guys see significant jumping in like the rankings by the time the season is over and people start getting high school film. Because I saw Kari Wilder at the game Saturday. That guy looks like he's going to give you 7 snaps a game as a true freshman next year. And then as a sophomore, completely take off and be awesome.
Yeah. Would not shock me at all. Yeah.
So, bigger class for the offensive line. One, it's a necessity because you've had small classes, but also it kind of makes sense when you've got a new guy running the room and he's trying to get as many as his guys in there as possible, especially when the old, like Luke Montgomery, Austin Saraveld got old really quickly in that room. Carson Hinsman, they got old. Tegra Shabola, they all got old real quickly in that room. And so you're going to very quickly need to replace those guys here. Okay. Anybody else offensively of note, or was Saturday just the Tyler Bowen show? Both in the game and on the sidelines.
It was not just the Tyler Bowen show, but just real quick on the offensive line point, because it's me. You need a big class because you need to start bringing in big classes quantity-wise. Think about what's happened with Ethan Nyanwa. I mean, if I had told you in March that Ethan Nyanwa was not good enough to be this team's starting tackle or even,
Is he out of eligibility?
He's out of, this is his 5th year.
Okay, never mind.
But the reason I bring him up is just the importance of it because you had great success. You landed Seth McLaughlin, hit. You landed Josh Simmons, massive hit. Like both those 2 things were great. You take 3 and you're like, oh, we'll just hit the transfer portal for a tackle. Phillip Daniels looks like a hit. You miss in the wrong time at the wrong position and you're in a hole. So that's not good.
With that being said,
the other surprise.
One more thing. Like Ethan and Yawa might be a miss, but they also brought in Justin Terry in the spring, and he's their backup tackle right now, and he is not eligibility after this year. So I do wonder if that plays a role as well, right? If you only end up with 5, okay, so there's 6 one of the dudes you brought in the spring and who went through his first summer at Ohio State and isn't going to go through his first spring until next year. And right now he's your backup tackle at right tackle behind Phillip Daniels. That can help with the numbers too. And I think that probably played a role in why they went and got Justin Terry as a transfer as well. So you brought in 3 tackle transfers. One is an immediate hit. One you took with the understanding that this was not about this year, it was about the future. And the other one's probably a miss. I think 2 for 3 is not bad, especially if you offset it with 5 guys in your offensive line recruiting class.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens along the offensive line, but the offensive line is a position where I think you do probably need 5. We skewered Justin Fry for only having 3 in a class. And while I do think Tyler Bowen's 4 this year are better quality, we'll have to see. One of the other surprise visitors, I should say the other surprise visitor, was Amari Latimer at running back. He really came out of nowhere. At least Micah Smith, to me, had really kind of been on the radar. I mentioned I had written a story about him. He loved Ohio State and had really kind of talked about how cool it was. And he'd been on the radar for a while. Amari Latimer, he kind of came out of nowhere. This to me was a surprise. I think if you would have told me that there were 2 surprise visitors, you could eventually work your way to offensive linemen. I don't think I would have gotten a running back for a while. This kid, number 378 overall prospect, number 24 running back in the composite. He's a 4-star player. Attends Sandy Creek in Georgia. The reason why I find this one interesting is because I know for a fact that all this summer, I'd come on this podcast and talked about how people in the program were like, hey, we have Favor Aki committed in 26. We're good. We're fine. That had been the idea for a little bit. They had, missed out, backed away, not taken, whatever you want to call it, some other top running backs in the class. Savion Hyder, he ends up at Michigan. Derek Cooper, he ends up at Texas. There was Carson Baker. He ends up at Florida. He had an OV scheduled and then he backed off. I think it became clear that Favor Aki, who, again, I think is a pretty solid running back. He just hasn't really played a lot. He had a high ankle sprain in his first carry of the season, I think. He has a 4-star ranking, number 201 overall in the class, number 15 running back. Favor Aki was always the guy, and it just kind of felt like for Ohio State that they were going to be cool with 1. You took 3 in last class with Anthony Rogers, Turbo Rogers, Isaiah West, and Bo Jackson. And Bo Jackson looks like a capital D dude.
And he's the reason they're looking for another running back in this class. I'll explain.
I don't think that. Go ahead. Yeah, I don't think that's crazy, and I'm going to give you some runway there. David Gabriel Georges is the top running back on their board in 27. Mm-hmm. They very, very, very much like him. There are some other really good backs in 27, but that to me was kind of the interesting idea that this summer it was, we're good with Favor Aki. CJ Donaldson's going to go. We have James Peoples, Bo Jackson, Turbo Rogers, Isaiah West, Sam Williams-Dixon, Favor Aki. We have 6. And even with a transfer in that group, and remember Sam Dixon, he did enter the portal last year and then came back. Even with a transfer in that group, you would have had at that point some experience. You would at that point have had some guys that have played at a high level, you would have presumed. You would have had some depth. Now that's up in the air. So they go after the current Wisconsin commit. I mentioned Micah Smith as one of those guys who could maybe leave a disaster of a situation at UCLA. Weatherspoon would kind of be in that same category. You asked about him. Breed would just be an in-state kid with a better opportunity. Aaron Thomas would be going home. There's, Guthrie would be the going home. Like there's all different types. This to me kind of is a little bit of both. I think you're looking at what Ohio State has done at running back in the last 2 years. Like with Travion, they just had a top 40 running back. They brought in a top 40 running back in Quinshon, who was a great player for a year. Mm-hmm. Now Bo Jackson's shining. Wisconsin stinks out loud. We'll see what that team is going to look like. We're going to get to see it firsthand in a few weeks. But Latimer on campus, Ohio State keeping their options open, obviously, for a second running back in 26. And I'll let you talk about the future of this room because there is a potential future superstar as a freshman.
Would we have been calling Bo Jackson the best running back in the room before the spring? In fact, at any moment last year when we were doing these recruiting pods, were we saying that Bo Jackson is potentially going to be the starting running back in 2025 by the time you get to the Minnesota game.
I don't think so. I mean, could you have convinced me that Bo Jackson was working into that mix and was maybe like this team's like
James Peoples from a year ago?
Interesting change of pace back, yeah. But I think we all thought it was going to be Peoples.
I think you thought you were good at running back with just favorite key when you thought that the line was moving as normal. But anytime somebody jumps the line in this day and age, it potentially increases the number of people you lose after the season. You understand like what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
It is a numbers game, and recruiting is a numbers game in like 3 different ways.
Right. But do you understand what I'm saying by not saying what I'm saying, I guess? I don't if I'm being weird about that, 614-350-3315.
Yeah.
Let me know. Bo Jackson has jumped the line. Deservedly so. He's been their best running back. But he has jumped the line. And this is not 2021 when the room was, with all due respect, Mayan Williams, who was the consolation back after you missed out on Bajan, and Master Teague, who was always a good number 2, but probably never a number 1 running back, and Marcus Crowley, who dealt with injuries and so never really got off the ground. Steel Chambers is a linebacker now. And then you've got Evan Pryor, who's now at Cincinnati, tearing it up, man. He had a really good game over the weekend. And now then you drop in the number 1 running back in the country, a 5-star recruit on top of that. And we're all going, oh, that guy's going to come in here and start next year. It was not until Bo Jackson went through winter workouts and spring had started when it's like, oh, we should be buying Bo Jackson stock. And that is hindsight. And it's come to fruition, obviously. And I thought he had a really good game on Saturday. I thought it was a really good first Big Ten start. It wasn't great and it wasn't bad. It had ups and downs, and it'll continue to progress along the way. I'm really interested to see what he does against Illinois this weekend because they got a really good linebacker by the name of Gabe Jacaz, who was pretty awesome. But talking about recruiting, he's jumped the line, just like Jalen McClain as a second-year safety has jumped the line. Just like Jackson Smith-Njigba in 2021 jumped the line. So what does that do about the guy who was in front of you that we thought was going to be the guy? It doesn't 100% mean they're going to transfer, but Jamison Williams transferred. Malik Hartford's redshirting this year. I'm not saying anybody is or isn't going to transfer, but I am saying that Ohio State deciding to get into the battle for Amari Latimer in October. Sure. Why is Amari looking around? Because Wisconsin's a dumpster fire, and who knows? I mean, that buyout's expensive, but like Amari's got to do what's best for him and find a situation that might be stable. So I understand why he's shopping around. Why is Ohio State shopping around for another running back in this class? Because maybe they think that there is a potential chance that they don't just lose one running back after this cycle. This season is over. Because the transfer portal is a thing. And when you have a guy that you thought was going to be your guy get jumped by another guy, you have to be on alert for those type of things. Ohio State's done a good job of retaining its roster, but that doesn't mean it's immune to somebody saying, I thought I was here in the hierarchy. Turns out I'm here. And the guy who jumped me is younger than me.
And what I want to be clear about, though, is like I don't think it has to be James Peoples.
I never said his name.
I understand, but like I think people are going to look at this and say like, oh well, a dude's a second-year player and he's not the starting running back, and a dude who's the first-year player is okay. So the dude who's the older guy is going to go. Well, I think we just saw Ohio State can have a pretty good 2-back system if 2 running backs are good enough to play.
Sure.
They can have 2 running backs go. I mean, then you start to look into the fact of, okay, well, there are 2 people that Ohio State brought into the class that are the same age as Bo Jackson. And Bo Jackson's the starting running back right now, and I don't think we have any indication that in 25, 26, or 27 that Bo Jackson is going to really cede those reins, barring an injury or anything like that. So, like, yeah, I think you're right. I think it is a very unique concept of, what today's day and age in recruiting is like, because I mean, let's call it what it is. Let's call it like let's just be blunt about it. It's a money conversation too, because like Ohio State players are wanted everywhere. And is it worth it to pay backup running back X or a third string running back X? Like, I don't know. It's a money conversation you got to figure out. Are you bringing in what's the comp? Yeah, but Latimer, like there's a lot there.
It's a money thing
that matters. Yeah,
but sometimes like I think we've gotten so deep into the NIL thing that everything has just become, well, it's the money thing. Sometimes it's the traditional thing of, I want to play football. And I just got jumped by somebody who's the same age as me or younger than me. And now I have to explore and that's, again, I don't know what's going to have to happen after the season, but Ohio State's going to lose players to the transfer portal. And they're going to bring in players from the transfer portal. They're going to get commits and sign commits. They're going to get commits who end up flipping somewhere else. They're going to flip players from out. That's just the world of college football now. So it has nothing to do with the money part of it. They'll figure that out. They always figure that out. It has nothing to do with anything more than, why is Ohio State all of a sudden, when it's felt like they were done at running back in the cycle, looking for a running back, or at least exploring their options? It doesn't mean they might do all this and go, yeah, we're good with Favorite Key. But why are they at least making sure every stone is unturned when you thought they'd already done that? It's because they have a true freshman who's starting at running back right now. And if you think that might throw your numbers off, then you have to go get your numbers and make them right. They want 5 or 6 running backs in the room. We might need to have they do that again during the bye week of run down what's the ideal number scholarship players at every single spot. And if the running back room is 5 or 6, okay, you're losing one in CJ Donaldson. Does starting a true freshman who's going to be a starting running back for you for the next 3 to 4 years mean you lose another guy? You got to explore those options, right? And that's all it is. The money thing, sure, but they'll figure that out. Mark Mantoni, Ryan Day, and the rest of the staff are very good at this. They're not going to. That's not going to be an issue figuring out the money. But sometimes it's a traditional football reason for why they might lose a player, because there's a lot of good football players out there, man. They all want to play. Nobody wants to sit. Right? And that's all this is. Okay, that's offense. We went 40 minutes there. Let's take a break, and then we're going to go over to the defensive side and do the same thing here on Buckeye Talk.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Nature's Bounty. Nature's Bounty believes your body is brilliant, naturally designed to thrive, inside and out. For those always looking for new ways to support your health from head to heels, Nature's Bounty has a range of over 400 vitamins and supplements born from 50 years of trust and care. Nature's Bounty. It's in your nature. Visit naturesbounty.com to learn more.
Walmart Business is in the business of helping your business, regardless of whether you're building bridges, building spreadsheets, or building lesson plans. Ooh, that looks fun. Walmart Business can help save you time, money, and hassle so you can focus on what you're building instead of what your supply closet is missing. In short, we take care of business so you can do more with yours. We're the Walmart you love, now for your business. Learn more at business.walmart.com.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means and Andrew Gillis. Flip season is upon us, which means it's the right time to do another recruiting pod this Tuesday. As you're listening to this, we're talking with Ryan Day as they prepare to play Illinois in their second Big Ten game of the season. It's Luke Altmaier against Julian Sand. It's Brett Bielema against Ryan Day. It should be fun. I had a texter, 614-350-3315, say, this is the week where everything that I love about Brett Bielema, all of a sudden now I have to hate it because now it's impacting my team. And I thought that was a perfect way to talk about what Illinois is, because they do some annoying things that are fun to watch when you don't have an invested interest in the game. Andrew, defensively, who are the flip targets for Ohio State? But also, is Ohio State, it feels like the Blaine Bradford thing has kind of cooled off here. So maybe that's not a thing anymore, but is Ohio State trying to flip anybody else defensively?
So this one, you said we went 40 minutes with the offense. Defense, to me, is so much cleaner. It's so much simpler.
Thank you, because I don't have another 40 minutes left in me.
Well, fair, but it is just so much cleaner, so much simpler. Let's start in the trenches. I think it's pretty clear kind of the big target of the weekend. Obviously, you got Kari Wilder back on campus, like you mentioned. It's kind of a delayed flip, if you will. Dre Quinn, a 4-star player out of Buford, Georgia, number 395 overall prospect, number 35 edge rusher. He decommitted from Clemson a few weeks ago, September 25th to be exact. He decommitted from Clemson. He was on campus for Ohio State. The reason why that's a big deal, Ohio State has one edge rusher committed in its 26 class, and that is obviously, like we mentioned. So defensively on the interior, you're pretty good. Damari Simeon is there. You like him. Cameron Brickle, you like him. Jameer Perez, definitely like more of a long-term project, but he's like a big body that you think, okay, this guy, we plant him in the middle after 2 or 3 years and maybe we can get something. Plus he's a Glenville kid and those kids, typically they're okay sticking around. So you feel okay about that. Okay, so your interior's fine and you have Wilder, but you need an edge rusher. You need another edge rusher. I mean, we talk about like what this team is going to be. Caden Curry, he's not going to be around next year. Bo Atkinson, we'll see. Kenyatta Jackson, we'll see. Like both those guys are eligible to return, but like this is really not even like a 26 conversation. So like Curry, Hicks, George, Atkinson, Jackson, those guys are going to be gone. So what else you got?
Not true. Hicks will not be gone
in 27. I'm talking about these guys.
Oh wait, it is 25. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So like that's what I'm saying. Like this is not like a next year conversation. This is 2 years down the line. So Zion Grady will be a 3rd-year player. Dominic Kirks will be a 4th-year player. Epi Satanale will be a 3rd-year player. Mickens will be he's in his 3rd year now. So technically, I guess he could be a 5th year. But that's it. That's what you got at edge. You need another edge. You have Kari Wilder. You need Dre Quinn. So that's a big target for them at edge, and we'll have to kind of see how this recruitment goes. I know Texas is going to be a big player there. So Dre Quinn, keep an eye on that one. Ohio State would certainly love to get him into the class just for what he is as a player and what you need in the class.
That's
See how simple that was?
That was it?
On the defensive line, like when you look at the defensive line, it's kind of it. Like they had some commits. They had Wilder, Perez was here, Sincere Johnson was here, like the Glenville kids. But like the defensive line, they've got a couple interior guys. Really, the only edge in 26 that they're kind of after that I believe was on campus this weekend was Dre Quinn. They've got some other talented players that, you could point to and say like, okay, Jace Brewer in 27, they really like him. But that's a 27 conversation. This is more 26 focus. So Dre Quinn.
Must be good to be a defensive coaching staff member right now. So okay, let's do this. Let's spend 10 minutes doing this. Because there were a lot of kids here. Sincere Johnson was here. Kari Wilder was here. Again, rank him higher. For Ohio State's commits who were in town, I'm kind of shocked that Blaine Bradford wasn't here. But
it's hard.
Yeah,
I get it.
I know it's less of like there's something wrong. It's more just Ohio State doesn't have a lot of night games where they can just open up its doors to the kid, and the kids don't have to worry about trying to like kill themselves to get to Columbus after they played high school football games the night before. And I don't know what Baton Rouge Catholic schedule is, so maybe that's part of this, but it just would have been cool if like finally Ohio State got a night game for a Big Ten game. They can have as many of their commits here as possible. Because also like Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon Wyatt were here, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it'll be okay. Everybody will be okay. And Luke Fahey has not been here yet. Like, was he at the Texas game?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, it like the Texas game was at noon, and he lives in California.
Right, but it's like I'm not pointing out these guys weren't here because there's a problem. It's more just like, oh man, that sucks. How many more times is Ohio State going to get a night Big Ten game this year where they can do that type of stuff, right? Simeon Caldwell, I saw him in person. I'm gonna back off of the like Sonny Styles thing a little bit. I think he just might be safety, man, and that's cool. Like, oh no, you're not gonna do what a freak did.
Yeah,
we'll
get to safety in a minute.
Yeah, what Sonny did is not normal. Here's my question for you: if you were a member of Ohio State's recruiting class and you're a defensive player, and you just watched Ohio State's defense in action, and I'm sure like when you have conversations with the coaching staff, I used to ask this to recruits, when they talk to you about the defense, who are they telling you to watch? Because that's going to be you in the future. Which one of these commits should be the most excited about what they've seen from Matt Patricia's defense so far through 5 games?
Like, because I talked to Ronaldo Perez. I went out and went to go see his game on Friday night. He's at Columbus Academy. He's a 27 kid. He was at Purdue this weekend. Is a top 300 defensive lineman, but he's one of those kids who's like, he's 6'5", 245. Larry Johnson said, or Ronaldo told me that Larry Johnson said that he likes his violence off the line, and Ohio State really likes his versatility. Like, he specifically mentioned Caden Curry, and he was like, hey, yeah, like, I forget if the question was about Caden Curry or not, but he was like, Caden Curry, yeah, they're moving him all over. And one of the things that really stands out to me is they've got different packages for their different personnel groupings. And like, I don't know if you're getting that with Simeon or Perez, or Brickle. Like, Sincere Johnson would probably be the other guy that I would look at and say like, maybe him. Like, because like, I mean, he's a linebacker that wears number 8, that it's at Glenville High School, who's very, very close to Arvell Reese. Like, the comparisons are literally, you'd have to be blind and deaf not to see them. Now, granted, I don't know if they're exactly one for one, but I think Corey Wilder, like, having that, hey, you can be an edge rusher, but we are going to move you around to an interior player on 3rd and long. And like, just the way that Ohio State's used their defensive line has been very, very unique to me this year. And I think that's why Corey Wilder might be in maybe the best position long-term here for Ohio State.
Listen, we can talk about Corey Wilder for another 45 minutes. That'll get me to do it. I think if you're Sincere Johnson, you're watching the guy who used to wear your number at Glenville and what he's doing, and you're going, yeah.
I'm going to be rich one day.
I'm going to make a lot of money one day. When Sincere Johnson, number 63 player, number 9 linebacker in the country, when he gets here, James Laurinaitis should just go, do what Arvell did and you'll be fine.
Yep.
Unfortunately,
they should just tell Arvell to retire and pay him as a GA and just be Sincere Johnson's coach.
Unfortunately, Arvell's not going to be here to mentor him through this. It's over.
He's not.
It's over. I think it's gone too well because it's not even a.
Have you ever seen that?
Go ahead.
Have you ever seen that thing where it's just like, I think I have girl bossed a little too close to the sun?
Yes.
It's like a TikTok sound. Yeah. I think Arvell Reese has NFL drafted a little too close to the sun. I think we have been a little too, he's awesome to the sun.
I think he's going to win the Butkus Award if he keeps this up.
Yeah, dude. So maybe if you want to lead this into our, because I was just going to go straight to linebacker after this. If you want to lead that into it, we can.
Yeah.
But like the thing that I was going to point out, Stefan retweeted this as we're doing the podcast.
Brugler,
Dane Brugler, who covers the NFL draft for The Athletic, said, if I did a mock draft today, Arvell Reese would be somewhere in the top 12 picks. Good chance he's the highest drafted Buckeye defender since Chase Young in 2020. Yeah. They have Caleb Downs on their defense.
Position, no value. I think this is the only...
That's why I was saying that Caleb Downs, I remember I mentioned to you guys like a couple of months ago, I was like, Caleb Downs is not a locked in top 10 pick because like, go look at safeties. It's not that way. But no, Arvell Reese as a pass rusher, people are going to look at Arvell Reese and say, we might have found Micah Parsons. That's what people are going to say.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean Caleb isn't a top 10 draft pick.
I mean, he's a top 10 talent, but I don't know if he's a top 10 draft pick.
He might be. Like they're not.
He might be, but
the thing is, they're not just using him as like a typical free safety or a strong safety. He's playing Caleb Downs. He's like lined up near the linebackers a lot of the time, and he's playing every position you can think of as well. The Arvell going ahead of Caleb thing is like how Chase Young went ahead of Jeff Okudah. It's like, oh, Chase Young's the highest drafted Ohio State defensive player. Okay, Jeff Okudah went number 3. It's not like Chase Young went 2 and like the next highest was 27 or something like that, right? So it's more like that. So, okay, let's just do the back 7 all together because I would love to keep this under 65 minutes if we can. So let Flip talk. Who else is Ohio State at least in the hunt for right now and thinking about potentially flipping?
Well, so this is a unique conversation because I think it's one or the other. There is somebody who just received an offer a few weeks ago from Ohio State, Jacob Curry. He's a linebacker target. He attends Nice High School in Florida, number 411 prospect. He's listed as a safety. Ohio State sees him as a linebacker. He took his official visit this past weekend. He's uncommitted. So he's not a flip candidate at all. He's not in that mix. Oklahoma is in the mix. Florida State, for some reason, Florida State and Ohio State are having some recruiting battles this cycle. He's got a visit scheduled.
They're both supposed to be good, and they keep trying to get kids from Florida. That's why.
Florida State has a visit scheduled for him next weekend. To me, this is pretty cut and dry. You have Jacob Curry. You need a third linebacker in this class with the way that Arvell Reese is playing. Arvell Reese is probably not going to be on this team in 4 months. I think he's a NFL draft declaree because, like, you could say, well, what if you just threw a bunch of money at him? Okay, well, if Arvell Reese is going to be like a 10th overall pick, 15th, even like if he's like a 20th overall pick, okay, You can pay that much money for a linebacker. No disrespect to what he's done. It's just an interesting conversation it is kind of difficult. So where does that leave you? You got Peyton Pierce, TJ Alford, Eli Lee, Riley Pettijohn, Garrett Stover. There's 5. You have Sincere Johnson. You have CJ Santa. There's 7. You probably want to bring in another guy or two. Maybe they go to the portal at linebacker. We'll see. Curry, to me, is clearly the top linebacker on their board. I think they are looking at it going, oh, okay, we have less time with our build than we thought. We need a third line. Why this ties into a flip candidate is because there is somebody by the name of Jaden Williams. He attends Washington High School in Massillon. He's a 3-star player, number 659 overall prospect, 3-star. He's currently committed to Indiana. He received an Ohio State offer like 2-3 weeks ago. I think this is very cut and dry. I think Ohio State's going to try for Curry. If they don't get Curry, they're going to try to flip Williams. They need a third linebacker in this class. They might go to the portal and get one anyway, like even if they have 3, because Peyton Pierce is going to be a starter next year. Like I feel very confident in saying that. You could, if you want, say Riley Pettijohn is going to be a starter and hip, hip, hooray. Or you could just say, you know what, let's go get another guy because we like somebody in the portal. That would not stun me, but you need numbers, and I think Williams is that second option. So to me, linebacker pretty much just comes down to Curry. If not Curry, who is uncommitted, we're going to try to flip Williams from Indiana.
I think they should start Riley Pettijohn next year. You can still go get yourself a portal guy.
Totally reasonable take.
There's nothing wrong with getting you a portal guy, but I think you should start Riley Pettijohn at linebacker next year.
Yes.
That Grambling game was, and obviously it's a lower point, but still that was a spiritual experience watching him play. This is just the way he moves out there at linebacker. Also, you're saying Ohio State might flip a linebacker from a playoff team. That's a pretty big deal.
The joke that I had to Steven that he really liked was when I was talking about Penn State playing Indiana, and he was like, getting ready to yell at me for saying like, don't give me that like Penn State can win. I was like, or don't give me that like, you know, Penn State's going to win a big game, whatever. I was like, hey man, you never know. That's a trap game for Indiana going on the road.
That was great.
To a team that's not very good. So you never know. You never know in college football. Indiana, when they go to Happy Valley, they got to be aware of, you know, the home dog is howling.
Man. Don't get upset.
So corner, there are a few options.
Okay.
They didn't really have anybody worth flipping or notable flips, I don't believe, on campus this past Saturday. So that is like a conversation that we can have, you know, maybe down the line at corner. You do need at least another one. We saw last year they went and got Jordan Woods in November. You know, Davison Igbenogsen's going to be gone. We'll see what happens with Jermaine Matthews. But, you know, you're probably in good hands with, like, if you're a starting trio of Aaron Scott, Devin Sanchez, and, like, Bryce West. Like, if that's your starting trio next year. Yeah, exactly. You're in great hands there. But then what do you have behind those 3? Like, if Matthews does go, then it's Sanchez, Scott, West, and then it's like, okay, is Jordan Woods as a second-year player who you kind of took as a project, is he ready to go? Is Miles Lockhart ready to go as that, you know, third-year player? You have Jordan Thomas, but is he going to be ready as a freshman? And I don't know. You need some options. Corner's a different conversation. Safety is the last one. They had Kamari Bing on campus. He was here for an OV. Alabama and Ohio State are the 2 schools that are really kind of pushing for this kid. He attends St. Francis Academy in Baltimore. They are one of the best high school powerhouses in the country, which I don't know. Like, I knew this because I lived there at the time in Maryland. Do you know who used to coach St. Francis Academy and who like really got St. Francis Academy off the ground in terms of like their football program? Biff Poggi, who is Michigan's head coach for 2 games this year. So very interesting. But yeah, St. Francis Academy, a hell of a football program. They've got Zion Ely, another Maryland commit. Jaira Edwards, a safety. I went and saw both those kids. Those dudes can ball. Kamari Bing, number 914 overall player. He's listed as a corner. Ohio State sees him as a safety. Again, we'll see what the numbers look like at this position, but I think you need 3 in this class. You've got, you know, Blaine Bradford, who it has calmed down. You never want to say never in today's recruiting landscape. LSU is going to keep pushing. His brother's there. He's from Baton Rouge. You don't want things to get squirrely at the finish line. Like you want this to kind of play simply and smoothly if you're Ohio State. So yeah, it doesn't seem like there's been a lot of noise, but that does not mean LSU is going to stop trying. So you have him, Simeon Caldwell. Again, everybody's kind of talking about this linebacker move. I know from people in the building that they love his speed and that they think he's a safety. He's just probably more of a box safety than anything. But then you need a third guy, because if Simeon Caldwell does become that linebacker, then we'll have to see. So you need a third safety. They do really like Kamari Bing. Again, really, really good football player who's currently committed to Maryland, but Alabama and Ohio State are pushing. He's going to take an OV, I believe it's an OV, to Alabama on November 8th. So this recruitment's not going to wrap up for another couple of weeks, but Ohio State is trying to add a third safety, and he is, it would appear, their next target in that group.
Yeah, I know they don't want things to get squirrely, but that's too bad. It's 2025. Everything gets squirrely near December. That's just kind of how it goes here. Get the text 614-350-3315. Flip season has arrived. We'll be texting out as things happen. It's the first place we go to it. You don't have to go searching for the news. You don't have to go searching for analysis. You don't have to go searching for the things you want. We'll bring it to you for free for 2 weeks, and then you got to pay $3.99 for it. 614-350-3315. That'll wrap up our recruiting pod. We'll do this again in the next couple of weeks, but we're just so locked in with what's happening in the football season that sometimes like recruiting slows down during the season. It doesn't stop, but it does slow down a little bit during the season. But it was good to check in because some things have been happening over the last couple of weeks here that were necessary for us to talk about on this podcast as Ohio State tries to go win a national championship this year while also continuing to build for the future. For Andrew Gillis, I'm Stephen Means. Talk to you guys later.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.